Welcome to another insightful episode of Achievements, where we showcase individuals who have significant contributions in their field. I'm your host Abdulatif Lanizi, and we will continue our journey in this episode after this report.
A successful identity is built on things a person has done. Your most important accomplishments are a very important way for you to measure your success. Colleagues, competitors, and the general public can look at a person's achievements to figure out how successful they are. Most of the time, putting in a lot of work pays off. Most people think a successful life is one of a lot of things to be proud of. When you finish a task, you win over problems or other people. Achieve means to work together to reach a hard and challenging goal. Everyone should be ready to help out and work together if they need to. There are many ways to reach your goal, but in the end, it's up to you to decide how it will pay out in your life. In their careers, some people want to get rich and will be well known. Some people think that even small victories are reasons to have a party. We're all different, so we all have our own thoughts on everything. In the end, though, everyone wants to be happy, and everything you do in life will help you to get closer to that ultimate goal.
Today we are honored to have Adhar Al-Mutawa, a horticulturalist and planet bioengineer researcher, join us with her extensive experience in research and desert restoration projects. Adhar's expertise in horticulture is truly remarkable. Let's dive deep into her work and uncover the insights she has gained throughout her career. Thank you, Adhari, for being here with us at Achievements, and we are so glad to have you.
Thank you, Abdulatif. It's lovely to be here.
You're welcome. So, Adhari, can you tell us from the beginning, how did you find the passion of this field, which is the planet bioengineer, and as a horticulturist? Can you tell us more about how did you start?
I'll be honest, my dad gave me my first plant, and I was so in love with it that I overwatered it so much that I actually killed it. And then I realized I actually had to learn more about this plant and how to make it survive, And I think that was my first step into the world of plants.
So you started your field by killing your own planet?
Yes, definitely.
And after that, by killing your own plant, after that, you've been more curious to learn more about that.
Yeah, it was like, I need to find out. I can't just do this, without actually doing some research or learning, I've killed it, but now I need to do better.
Well, okay, that's really good start. I mean, not that good for that for plant, but it's a good start for you.
Yes.
And you started from the university. You studied here in Kuwait.
My first interest in plants was in Kuwait, but I first went into the field of plants, which I did at the University of Queensland, Australia, studying horticulture, which is basically the science and art of plants. Basically not just where to place plants, but also what makes them work, why we need to put them where they need to be, nursery management, their physiological needs, So it was very in-depth.
What about the projects that you had, the insightful, significant project that you have in the desert restoration during your career? Can you tell us more about it?
My focus, I've published a paper last year, which you can find on Google Scholar, and it's on native and exotic plants, recommendations for urban landscapes. And basically it specifies our conditions in Kuwait and how we need to shift our focus and our knowledge of what kind of plants go where in cities and where we live, because the majority of plants where we live, Abdulatif, if you've ever noticed, are not actually native plants or even desert plants that can actually withstand these high temperatures and our issues with water scarcity. So that focus of that paper was rethinking of what we need to plant in our urban areas.
Because unfortunately we cannot plant anything that we want, and we have really high temperature, and we've seen a lot of work about the greening initiatives that have been here by the public authority of the environment, and we've seen a lot of initiative, and all the thanks for the great work about the greening. But unfortunately, do you think that this work will last at the end?
Yes, some of it, because there are a lot of efforts by the EPA and PAF, Public Authority of Agriculture and Fisheries.
Even private people, there are
Yes.
personal people without any authorities, without any entities, private or public entities or governmental entities. They're trying to work alone. Like maybe if you can see in Jalea or Khairan, I've seen a lot of people behind their chalets. They have like big place, really, a big desert place, and they're trying as possible as they can to plant some things, and they try to motivate other people to plant more as they're trying to spread the idea. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, of course. I'm not against it completely. You know, people need to, and that's the beauty, especially after COVID. You know, there was a big shift, and people started planning. They were like, okay, because we live in this space, we want to make it green. You know, and the EPA has efforts, and the PAF has efforts, especially because of the Gulf War effects. You know, we lost a lot of biodiversity and natural landscapes, and you see all these reserves, and it's all wonderful and beautiful. But of course, the people behind all of this and the people that guide you through all of this are the scientists, the people that do the research, the people that make all the information possible, collect all the data, which help instead of, you know, everyone just doing what they want. It saves money and effort, because also, you know, to plant all this stuff takes money and effort.
It takes a lot of money. I agree with that. Yeah.
So if you're guided by science, we can actually save time, money, and effort towards what we need to grow, and focusing all these energies towards something very specific and something that is achievable and something sustainable in the future.
And of course, with the help of our dear scientists, we can achieve that.
Yes.
So can you tell us about your experience in communication, collaboration, and technical documentation, and the role that it's played for you as a horticulturist and as a researcher?
There's a lot of interest. I have to say, there's a lot of interest, not just from Kuwait, but also internationally when it involves Kuwait and the GCC. I've seen a lot of interest, especially in native plants, which is where I'm working now in seed technology and health, because people are realizing this is something that we need to invest in, you know, because we're losing all our biodiversity, and it's so unique, and people always seem to forget that Kuwait's biodiversity and plant biodiversity and our animals are so unique to our region and our area that we actually need to concentrate all these efforts towards preserving them.
Which animals? Which type of animals? Because really, I've heard this word a lot. That we heard that here in Kuwait we have actually a type of animals that I don't think you can find it at any place in the GCC countries.
Yeah.
But I've heard that, and also at the sea, but I don't know about that. Can you tell us more?
It's not my specialty, but we have our own species of fish, like spady, and our own type of species of mid, and there are even species that haven't been documented. That's the thing, we don't actually monitor them, which is one of the greatest issues we're facing in Kuwait. And if you even go into insects, sadly, like, there's only one known scientist that actually documented all these insects. And now I only know one other plant entomologist that actually documents all these insects, and his name is Mohammed Ma'rafi. Shout out to him. He's amazing. And he collects all these plant species in specific areas and specific regions. And the thing that's so special about it is that these insects that are native to Kuwait can only eat specific plants that are native to Kuwait. So native species of plant and native species of insects actually need each other.
That's exclusive thing for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
They actually coexist together.
That's really nice to hear, that we have something special only for us here in Kuwait. So can you tell us more about the insights? Can you share with us some of the insights that you have on your urban agriculture that you studied in your master's degree, I think, in Melbourne?
Yes, yes.
Can you tell us more about your insights that you have there?
Yeah, I studied in the University of Melbourne. I did a master's in urban horticulture. As I told you before, Abdul, if we were talking, I did my bachelor's in horticulture, but then I did my master's in urban horticulture, which is basically planting within the city, because I felt like this is an area that needs to be actually studied more. There's not a lot of in-depth studies, especially in Kuwait, you know, because people are just blindly planting based on a list. but there's an actual science to it, you know. Different plants have different characteristics. Everything from their root system to the wax on their leaves, you know, has an effect that affects us. The wax on their leaves can capture X amount of elements and particulate matters that affects human beings, you know, and their roots can affect how much sand they're actually holding on to stop sand particles shifting from place to place. So I was like, you know what, I would love to study about plants in the city where we live. Also creating green roofs, which is what I studied. Part of my master's research was actually greening green roofs, but using native species and using modules. And I've never seen anything like it. And to be honest, I graduated several years ago, but still I haven't seen anyone use modules in Kuwait on green roofs and planting native
Until
species.
now?
Still, they haven't done.
Still?
Yeah, it has not been done here. But in Australia, it's very common. And that was my area of specialty.
That's good. That's actually a good point to point out. So can you tell us what motivated you from the beginning to pursue your PhD in bioengineering research?
I wanted to do something, you know, in relation to particulate matter, air pollution, especially because, I don't know if you get that, a lot of people get sick, and if you go to the doctor, what do you usually hear? It's something in the air, it's something in the air.
Yeah, always we hear that, something in the air.
And I got so sick and tired of hearing that, and I'm like, I want to know what's in the air, you know, I want to study what's in the air, and there's not enough studies about what's in the air, and our main source of, you know, income in Kuwait is petroleum manufacturing and byproducts. So I was like, you know, I want to do something that in relation to plants, I can study what's actually in the air and how we can actually quantify it, you know, how we can measure it. And that way we can also study what kind of plants to grow, you know, that can help us get better air.
Well, actually, we need more studies about that because unfortunately, every season shifting from spring to the other season, actually we have a little bit of a season of getting cold fever and getting sick, unfortunately, and a lot of people will face that. And actually, I think that until this moment, a lot of people have been sick because of the heat wave that we are facing. And the doctor, what did they told us? They told us something in the air again.
Yes.
Yeah, unfortunately. So can you tell us about how was the work in the Kuwait Ministry of Agriculture, and how did it shape your understanding in horticulturist and as a horticulturist and also as an agriculture from the beginning?
I'd have to say when I graduated and I first worked in Public Authority of Agriculture and Fisheries, I realized I had a huge gap in knowledge because I started working in actually research in horticulture department. And then I used to go use the facilities in the native restoration community, and I used to go there and use their equipment and their lab, and then I realized, wow, I really want to get into this field, you know, this is so untapped, there's not enough research being done on it, there's a huge amount of wealth, of information, and also commercial use for these native species, and no one's really using them or utilizing them, and I need to address that. And maybe I can give, you know, basically gap something with research towards everyday people actually applying this knowledge. In terms of the medical uses of native species, a lot of people don't know that a lot of native species have amazing medical possibilities in terms of curing cancer, cough, medication.
They're still trying to discover it, right?
They know the alkaloids and the chemical composition and basically the old traditional medicine, but no one has actually managed to tap into it and create it into pill form or, you know, liquid form and actually manufacture it on a commercial level where, you know.
Still at the old traditional way, I think,
yes,
still until now.
Yes. And I feel like that's the market we need to focus on, and we need to shift that, and someone needs to actually invest money towards that and create all these new medicines.
I don't think people will invest some money on these things
Why,
soon.
Abdul Latif?
Because in my opinion, I think that the investments until now are been going in another direction, unfortunately, especially here at the GCC or at a lot of countries.
I have to disagree with you, Abdul Latif.
Because in medicine, I know we learned a lesson after the COVID, but it wasn't that big of a lesson to the small investors, right?
No, but then if you look, I'm going to disagree. I'll tell you why I'm going to disagree, Abdul Latif. Because if you look at medicine, how much has Chinese medicine affected us? People really go and follow traditional Chinese medicine remedies. Yeah,
exactly, until now.
So why are we not preserving that? That is the knowledge is being lost through generations, you know? So someone needs to actually preserve it and actually put an influx of money and try to
put it in more professional way.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, exactly. We hope that this will happen at some point, because inshallah we will find it, because as you said, we need that. Our traditional ways of medicine is still effective and is still in a good way, has its own unique results.
Yeah.
And everyone trusts that. As the new medicine, the technology been approved until now, we have a lot of people go to the traditional medicines and to the traditional doctors that we have, and we still see some significant work. And we hope that we have to see more investors in that.
Yes.
Inshallah. Of course, Adari, we have more and more questions, but ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned after this report and we will be back.
Adar al-Mtawwa is a horticulturist and plant bioengineer researcher. She is a researcher and horticulturist with 7 years of experience developing and working on research and desert restoration projects. Adar is also skilled in communication, collaboration, and technical documentation. She has graduated from University of Melbourne in Australia with a master's degree in urban horticulture. Adari is currently finishing her PhD in Belgium today in bioengineering science. Since a very young age, Adari has practiced working in what she specializes in. In 2008, she has worked in Kuwait Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries and had several responsibilities. Adari was responsible of experiments such as tissue culture research on flowers and the production of oyster mushrooms in greenhouses and field production of cucumbers. Adari also gained extensive experience while working with the team. She ensured that the records are kept to lay down recommendations. Currently, Adari works in the Public Authority of Agriculture, where she is responsible for monitoring farms and providing extensive supervision, hence recommendation to hydroponic and horticulture farms. In addition, Adari also is responsible for developing research on the field and in greenhouses. Adari has also taught in several places. One of them was the University of Antwerp in Belgium, where she was a supervisor on the bioengineering department. In addition, Adari has also attended many lectures, seminars, and conferences. She has attended the Knowledge for Growth conference that was held in Belgium in 2019. She also attended the lecture of the relationship between land use and biodiversity loss that was held in Kuwait in 2021. In 2022, she has attended the International Exhibition and Forum on Afforestation Technologies in Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Welcome back, our viewers, as we continue our interview with our guest, Adari. So, can you tell us from the beginning about the challenges that you have faced on your way?
Challenges.
Of course, as a researcher, plant researcher here in Kuwait, unfortunately, we have a desert everywhere, a high temperature. So there are not a lot of plants and not a lot of research. The support, unfortunately, isn't that good. So
I wouldn't say, I'd say it's a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. If I was to be very positive about it all, it's also an opportunity because this is a field that really requires a lot of work. Therefore, you have a lot of opportunities to research a lot of topics that you would love to research. I think the greatest hurdle would be is that looking for people to support you, people that have the expertise and the knowledge at the end of the day to create the research that you would love to do. That, I think, is the greatest hurdle. Yeah.
It's really challenging to, especially the support, sometimes become a little bit more challenging. The financial support, maybe, and also you are studying right now in another country on the PhD, or you finished, right?
No, I'm studying here. Yeah.
But I think that's really good. But from one of the opportunities that we think here in Kuwait will be a good opportunity for us is that since we're still trying to discover the sea here, and fortunately you just told us that we have some species that only lived here in Kuwait. I think that's really special, and I think that will attract other scientists and researchers from a whole world to Kuwait to try to discover more and more, and maybe study why there are some species only live in Kuwait and feed on species that only live in Kuwait. Do you think that also will attract other scientists from other countries?
Yes, the plant that I was telling you about, which is the khuzama, which is the Heroidia dixonia, which was discovered by Violet Dixon in the 1940s. She first discovered it in Kuwait, and she named it after herself. Yeah, I feel like a lot of researchers all over the world, all over the globe, would love a chance to study native plants of Kuwait, because, as we discussed before earlier on, you know, these plants have a wealth of information. If they have managed to survive 50+ degrees of heat in Kuwait's temperatures,
it's killer. It's killer degree. I agree with that.
They have the secret for food security in the future. We can take their DNA makeup to create plants that we can feed on. Cucumber, tomatoes that are resistant to high temperatures and very bad, soils, terrible soils that have almost no nutritional value or no organic matter, If we could tap into that and take that piece of information and put it in, and DNA, and put it into a cucumber or tomato, we would be able to, solve climate change issues.
That's really good. So how do you approach the development of research on greenhouses here in Kuwait? Because also in the GCC we've heard a lot of initiatives, and we are seeing a lot of initiatives that have been initiating by the governmental entities about the greenhouses here in Kuwait. Have you ever participated on this work? What do you think about the greenhouses initiatives?
That's what I used to do before I moved into native plants. I am pro greenhouses because they are the answer towards food security in Kuwait. And actually, they've experimented, even my previous work, we've experimented on so many different varieties, different species of plants, in terms of food security, and food production, because at the end of the day, most of our food is imported. But the solution to combat our water scarcity, our poor soils, our extreme climate conditions, are greenhouses.
We've seen a lot of initiatives on the way, and it is going on actually in a good point, because these initiatives are trying to be on the sides of the environment. But since we're talking right now about the environment, are you becoming more environmental at these days? Because unfortunately, in the environment case, on the climate change, and you are a plant researcher, do you think that the climate change that's happening really because of the environmental initiatives that have been going on in the world?
Yeah, of course. If we were to look at, historical records of the climate before, you would go see that climate change impacts were actually during the Industrial Revolution. With the Industrial Revolution...
Is it true?
Yes, it's true. There's actual data.
Because what I've seen, what we've been talking about, a lot of people saying that the GCC countries, the degree was becoming to around 50 degrees since hundreds of years. This is what I heard. I said, no, that's have to be impossible, because the Industrial Revolution that we face since the 1900, it's really changed a lot, and it's really had some climate change effects on our day. But unfortunately, a lot of people have been thinking or trying to believe that because they want still to live in this industrial revolution that they are living in.
Look, if you were to look at the past histories, yes, of course, the world has been changing over time. It's just natural, it's a natural process. Temperatures increase, the world is changing, but the thing that actually adds to speeding up the effects of climate change and speeding up the temperature rise is the greenhouse emissions, it's the petroleum production, the air pollution, the burning of fossil fuels. That's speeding up the effects. They're making them more condensed. You're seeing bigger, major impacts. You're seeing larger expanses of polar caps melting, you know. As for me, what I actively try to do, I'm actually doing a challenge this month, Abdul Latif. Trying to
challenge?
Yes, I'm doing a challenge.
Okay, which type of challenge?
It's called a Plastic Free July. Plastic Free July. There's a website you can sign on, and I pretty much pledged through this month that I will avoid as much as possible.
Any plastic objects?
Yes, any plastic.
Not to use
one
it,
use.
not to buy it.
Yeah, one-use plastic. One-use plastic. Try to avoid one-use plastic. So if I go to a coffee shop, bring your own mug. If you want water, bring your own water flask with you. You know, don't buy water bottles. Don't order your coffee in a plastic container. Bring your own cup.
Yeah, we don't want to increase the size of the garbage island that we are seeing here in the world, because we've seen that in, I think, the Pacific Ocean.
Yes.
And it's still there and getting bigger and bigger. Unfortunately, it's killing a lot of animals. So, can you tell us which lectures and seminars had a significant impact of your understanding in the horticulture?
I would have to say, Abdul Latif, my favorite one, the one that actually surprised me.
What is it?
The Saudi Greening Initiative.
The Saudi Green Initiative?
Yeah, it was amazing. It was truly, like, if I were to describe it, it was up there with the best on an international global level. The people were amazing, the lectures, the people they brought in to give us lectures, to talk about, you know, climate change, greening initiatives, projects, research work they're doing in Saudi Arabia, also in the rest of the world. Was on such a level that it's really humbling, and it's also really impressive. I hope, like, you know, Kuwait could take a page out of their initiative, because not only that, also all the volunteer and NGO programs that got involved. It was really fascinating. It was very encouraging, and I hope we can deliver something on that level, you know, because it was really something impressive.
This is actually the thing what we're going to ask you next, was the experience that you gained and the insights from the exhibition that you went to here in Saudi Arabia, because a lot of people said and commented, and we've seen in social media, that the work that we have seen, it is really significant, and it was actually in a worldwide exhibition about the greening and about for I think the major cities, especially Riyadh. So you had some of the insights, and you gained some knowledge from there. Can you tell us more about this exhibition that you had?
I'd have to say one of the most impressive points that I really enjoyed and I loved was one of the discussion topics that I attended, was how they were involving volunteer groups in nature reserves, and also addressing the issue of ecotourism. You know, because we all have nature reserves and we all have national parks, but it was more about how to involve people, how to involve the community, how to involve the volunteer group, increase education, and increase job opportunities. From basically herding, you know, they were like saying how they were going to give licenses for herders to come and so they can feed off the natural landscape, because it helps grass, you know,
to grow even younger and younger. Yeah, more and more. So can you tell us about how do you stay updated on the field of horticulture and also as a bioengineer?
I'd have to say a lot of reading.
A lot of reading to stay updated.
Yeah, my day involves a lot, every day involves a lot of reading. And also, while I'm doing research, you have to keep in mind that while you're doing research, you need to have knowledge on the latest research being conducted on the topic that you're conducting. That's how you know that you're staying relevant and on point, and that whatever you're researching is actually answering a question that people need to be answered, or the scientific community needs answering, you know?
I think also using the websites, it's really good. Using the websites of as a horticulturist or bioengineer.
Yeah, but websites
if there was
are
websites to communicate directly.
Yeah, but websites, that's the thing. Media and social media is a lot of information. I'm kudos to that.
Too much to handle, I think, of information.
But then you have to remember that some of these people are hobbyists. Some of the information may not be scientifically proven, that you need to actually fact check behind. Because if you were to get information from actual research or journal articles, it goes through a very in-depth process. You don't just publish work. There's like an actual criteria, there's an actual board of how many people reviewing your work. So you know that they've gone through a lot of process to actually publish their work. As for information that you get from social media, kudos on them. You can get little tidbits and it's more palatable for the general public.
General tips like.
Yeah, for general public, I understand. Who's gonna read a 15-page journal article? You know, you want 5 minutes.
Well, I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
Especially on the weekend, I'm not gonna read
You want 1 minute of information, you want it now, and you want it quick, and that's all you're gonna give.
Yeah, quick tip, like self-fasting. But that's a good thing to have your own ways to stay updated as a horticulturist and bioengineer. So, do you have an advice, a special advice to the people who has the passion of horticulture and bioengineer? Of course, you have advice for them, and the people also want to make change on this field. So do you have one advice for them?
Go and have no fear. It's very interesting because, you know, going into the field of plant science, the beauty of the job is it's not just an office desk job like a lot of jobs. You actually go out, you collect data, especially in research, you go out, you conduct experiments, you ask questions, and it's not something that you consistently do the same thing over and over again. With research, you know, every time you're actually evolving, you're trying something new, you're developing new skills, new techniques. So go in, have no fear, and especially if you're someone that has a lot of questions of why, what, how, when, this is a great field for you to work in.
Thank you, Adari Mutawwa, for this wonderful interview. Unfortunately, we reached our time, and this is the end of the episode. I'm so glad to know more about you and the journey that you had. You are a scientist, you are a great scientist, and I hope that all the goals that you want to achieve and accomplish, it will become true. Thank you, Adari, for everything.
Thank you, Abdul Latif. It was lovely being here.
You're welcome. We are truly grateful to Adari Mutawwa for sharing her invaluable insights and experiences as horticulturist and plant bioengineer researcher. Adari, your dedication and contributions to the field of horticulture is truly commendable. To our dear viewers, thank you for joining us on this episode of Achievements. Remember, with passion, perseverance, and commitment making a difference, we can create a greener and more sustainable future. Stay tuned for more individuals who are shaping the fields in remarkable ways. Thank you, and we will see you tomorrow, and goodbye for now.